Charlotte, welcome to the Become a Media Maven podcast. I'm excited to have you.
Hi, Christina. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say about financial literacy in general and just school all of us, because this is something that we don't learn about in school. And it's funny because we go to school to learn how to make money. We go to college to get a good job to make money. Like everything we do in life is all about making money, but we never actually learn about money itself, like how to handle
Yes.
it, how to manage it, how to make more, how to keep expenses down, like none of that. And it is your job right now to school people on finances. And at Penny, you actually make it fun and entertaining while educational as well.
Yes. Well, thank you for that intro, Christina. That is exactly what we try to do. We are super passionate about financial literacy, and Penny is really the first audio streaming app that seeks to reimagine how people learn about finance and exactly what you said, make it more fun, make it more accessible, less dry, less like you're listening to a finance professor, just go on and on and on. Because we really think that having that basic level of financial literacy will help people to become more financially independent and overall find more freedom and happiness in their day-to-day life. So that's really what we're all about. We really, really want to help people to kind of level up their life, and we think that that is possible through education.
And you make education fun. Like some of the albums you have on Penny are with some really cool people. One of the most popular is with a woman named Ruth Devereaux. She shares real estate investing advice. You have a man named Troy Bolus who sold his first startup for $40 million fresh out of college. You have a YouTuber who specializes in non-traditional investments. You have even a Tom Cruise impersonator. Like you definitely keep it entertaining as well as educational. And
Yes.
there is such a need for this. Why do you think Americans lack financial literacy?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's such an important question. I think really at its core, the education system is broken, right? We are not preparing young people for the real world by giving them just even a basic understanding of how to navigate the financial landscape, how to balance a checkbook, how to think about, investing in a retirement plan. Because really, at the end of the day, if you start early, you, because of compounding interest, are going to make, I mean, hundreds of thousands more than people who start late. But most people don't even know that. So I think financial literacy is so, so important, but it's the least taught thing in school. It's not even a requirement in high schools. It's not a requirement or even an offering in colleges. I myself have a degree in finance, and I learned all things related to finance before becoming an investment analyst. But even I still struggled with student debt coming out of college. Even I really had to work hard to budget and learn how to kind of be smart and savvy with my expenses. And so, these are like the most critical things to becoming an adult and setting yourself up for success. And it's simply not taught in school. So I completely agree with you. I think it's such an important kind of missed opportunity, and we want to fill that need. I would love for that to change and for education systems to really adapt and kind of become more modern, so that we can provide all young people with this knowledge and this education. But I think that at its core, why people don't have this basic financial literacy and understanding is because it's simply not taught. And if your family doesn't sit you down, when you're young across the dining room table and teach those lessons to you and make it fun and engaging and tell you about finance or help you get kind of a leg up in savings, then you're simply not going to know it, and you're not going to seek that information out, because then if you don't know it, it's overwhelming. Finance is a huge, huge world. There's so much in terms of complexity, and so if you aren't taught even the basics, you can't really start to kind of build on that foundation as you get older. So that's kind of my thoughts on why that disparity exists and what is happening with the education system. And really, that's why we created Penny.
And you guys do a great job at Penny at really, I mean, I don't want to say dumbing it down because that doesn't sound nice, but it is complex. There are so many things that you can talk about under the finance umbrella. And you do a
Yeah,
good job of breaking up the album. So it's like a podcast, but it's not because it's all in an app. And then I love that you call them albums because it really is like back in the day when you had a CD and the CD had like 12 different tracks with 12 different songs. You have a person create an album, and those 12 different tracks are 12 different points. So, for example, I
exactly.
have an album on Penny, and for one track I'm talking about how I pay my team. Another track I'm talking about how I started my business. Another track I'm talking about how I invested in business coaching. So it really does,
Yeah,
I mean, it makes it easy for the listener to listen to what they want to hear specifically and to just break it down so you know exactly what you're looking for and you can find it easily. Tell me how you got involved with Penny. Your background is in finance. This is something that it's like it's such a genius idea and it's something that is obviously needed because people are not getting this education anywhere else, even in the education system. So how did this all come about for you?
yeah, great question. So I met my founder and CEO back when I was in investment banking, and we really clicked talking about this opportunity in the world, how we kind of live in this dynamic of rent-seeking economics and how people are struggling to get ahead, even though they're working harder than ever before. So we wanted to do something about it, and we didn't totally know how that would manifest, right? We knew it was education based and kind of waited to see. It took several years to really solidify this idea, um, but yeah, we like put our heads together over the course of 2 or 3 years and wanted to do exactly what you just said: make it fun, make it accessible, make it different than a podcast, where you know episodes are great and there's like I love podcasts, but at the end of the day, we do want it to be accessible and actionable and have every album broken down into points that the listener can take away from that album and directly apply in their own life that same day. You don't have to have a fancy degree, you don't have to have millions to invest. You can listen to an album and everything can be applicable to you. So it took a couple years for us to solidify the idea. And then at the beginning of last year, when we started operations, and then COVID hit, we just, I mean, doubled down because we believed everyone was going to need this information and this support even more than usual. They say 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and suddenly it's like in COVID, people aren't even getting paychecks anymore. So how do you navigate that world if you don't know how to, navigate the financial landscape? So yeah, that was we met in finance. We agreed that the financial system was broken. We wanted to change it and knew it would take something dramatic and external as a catalyzing factor to really make a difference in the financial world. So that's kind of how Penny was born, and we're really excited that it's here and that it's taking off.
Okay, I need you to explain something to me like I'm in kindergarten. And
Okay.
I've heard a couple of explanations, and I think I get it. But for our listeners, please explain the situation with people on Reddit saying, go buy GameStop and AMC stock, and then it goes up, and then the big guys on Wall Street get mad. Like, explain it like I'm in kindergarten.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Great question. Very timely. What's happening right now is the people on Reddit are trying to essentially stick it to Wall Street a little bit. They're trying to squeeze Wall Street by purchasing these shares in a company that Wall Street has a short against. So, to explain shorts in the easiest non financial way possible, if your friend bought an iPhone and they paid $650 for it. And then the day that it arrives, you went and you borrowed that iPhone and you sold it. Say you sold it for $650 because you believe that the price is going to go down. So now you have to go and find that same iPhone to give back to your friend because your friend's going to be arguably pretty pissed at you, right? They're going to want it back pretty soon. But if you say, hey, I'm going to borrow your iPhone until Friday, and I'll get you an iPhone back on Friday. So now your job is to go find that iPhone at a lesser price. Same iPhone, silver, 16 gigabytes, whatever. So if you look on Craigslist, if you look for sales, if you look for some sort of arbitrage in the market so you can purchase that same exact iPhone for less money, thinking that, it just came out, but there's going to be a pop in the price of it and it'll go down by the end of the week. So you're essentially betting that you can find that phone for less. So Friday comes around, you get an iPhone, same thing off of Craigslist. Maybe you pay $550 and you return that phone back to your friend. You just made $100. That's kind of how this works, except in this situation, your friend that you're borrowing from is the markets. So you'd be borrowing from, a hedge fund or a broker dealer. And similarly, when you're selling that same share in the markets, you're selling it in the market still to other people. So effectively, if the price doesn't go down, say, Steve Jobs comes out and says, this is the best iPhone of all time, we only have limited edition, and suddenly the price spikes, right? That price goes up to $750. You still have to buy that same iPhone, and you still have to get your friend that iPhone back on Friday. So then you become out $100. So in this situation, the hedge funders were betting that the price would go down, and these Redditors effectively are boosting the market and boosting the price and taking it to astronomical levels, even though the fundamentals of the company aren't great, right? Nothing has changed about GameStop. It's a bit of a dying company, not a lot of people go to get their gaming supplies in store. We're also, not many people go into store in general anymore. And so the fundamentals of the company are not great, but Reddit is boosting up this price, and those hedge funders still have to buy those shares. They still have to make good on the thing that they borrowed. So effectively, they're causing billions and billions of dollars of losses to these hedge funds. And it's kind of a crazy thing to see, because that type of power dynamic has never existed on Wall Street. So, regardless of how you feel about what they're doing, I think the potential victim, whatever side you fall on, whether you are like, yeah, stick it to Wall Street, or you're like, whoa, that's crazy and dangerous. Everyone has a different opinion, but I think the real true potential danger in this situation are the novice investors who might get sucked into that hype and not understand that, Wall Street bets on Reddit saying go all in on GameStop is not like, oh, go invest your really hard earned life savings into this stock because it's going to make you a millionaire overnight. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And no, that was a great analogy. And I have seen, since this happened, people are in different groups and they're saying, let's do the same thing with this stock and let's do it again with this one. And I can
Right.
see where you said people don't know any better and they think, oh, the same thing's going to happen to me because they hear a success story, from this guy on Reddit who made $100,000. So they want to do the
Exactly.
same thing, but it doesn't always work out well I mean, it really is like gambling, right? It's like going to Vegas and just laying money down and crossing your fingers.
Exactly. And so that's the thing. I think if you want to take part in this and you think it's a fun movement, go for it, but don't invest anything that you can't stand to lose. Just like you said, if you want to take, your literal beer money or your Vegas money and throw it into the markets in these stocks, have fun, enjoy yourself, but don't invest anything you can't stand to lose as part of this movement, because that at the end of the day is what's going to probably happen. And so, the poor novice investors who are getting sucked in and investing tens of thousands into these stocks, they're going to be disappointed when they come back down and they realize that it's not as solid of an American company as they are being led to believe. So that's where it does become kind of predatory, these different groups trying to pop different stocks. And the SEC does have regulations around pump and dumps or market manipulation. So people do have to be really careful with the ways that they're approaching these types of kind of movements.
So you mentioned, I mean, we have this situation. Who knows, how many people, maybe they've made a lot of money, maybe they've lost a lot of money playing
Yeah.
these games as of late. And then you also have a lot of people who their finances are just like crazy, depending on what their situation is during COVID. So as people deal with lots of changes, maybe it's stressful, maybe it's anxiety, maybe it's, a completely different work situation, family, kids, whatever it is. What kind of
Right.
advice do you offer them? And I know that's a hard question to answer because everybody's situation is different. So, like, how do you tackle questions like that as it relates to how do you deal with stress and anxiety about finances? Because it is a loaded
Right.
question.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, everyone's situation is so different when it comes to money and expenses. And I think my best form of advice is to really look at your inflows versus your outflows. A lot of people who maybe have lost their job and are surviving on savings, do everything that you possibly can to reduce your expenditures. Um, whether that is, put a pause on your streaming accounts or your Spotify accounts, all of the things that you believe are necessary to your day-to-day life, really take a hard look at that and see what is absolutely critical during this time frame. And if you're really stressed, maybe do the same thing regardless of whether you've lost your job or not. I had a period where I really had to downsize my life in order to pay off student loans and still meet my daily like living expenses. And so I had to be extremely frugal. And it is possible to go down to the bare bones of your life and teaches you some great lessons along the way. So that's one I would recommend. Also, I think for people who are struggling and maybe stuck at home during the pandemic, if you have an ability to freelance your skill set or take on little side hustles or side gigs, there is so much opportunity on the internet. Even delivering groceries if you feel comfortable, if you don't have a high risk home environment. I think there's so many different ways you can also increase your inflows. And so if you're able to increase inflows while reducing your expenses, it really helps to kind of pad your financial system, and that overall will help your anxiety levels.
I love that. And you have literally in Penny, you have an album with plenty of examples like the ones you
Yes,
just said. And I mean, if you
yeah,
think about it, this is a saying. I feel like this is a saying rich people say, my personal opinion, when they say money can't buy you happiness. I'm always like, give me a situation and I will give you an example of how money can fix it. And I say that
yes,
just because money touches everything. Like it has a connection to anything. Like people will say money can't buy you health. I'm like, do you live in the United States? Like you can't
right.
get good health care in this country unless you are rich. And I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not saying directly money buys you happiness. However, money does touch everything. It's the reason you go to school. It's the reason you go to college. Like people spend their whole lives paying off college loans to work a job that they got the college degree to get, but then with their money, they're paying off college loans for the rest of their life. Like it's
Exactly.
it's like surrounded by you 24/7. So I really suggest that you listening, you check out Penny, you even break up the albums. You have different categories. So people can check out different things as it relates to them in their life right now, or maybe, in a year or two for now. So like an example, you have Ruth Devereaux talking about real estate investing. That's something that's been on my list of things to do for a while. I mean, ever since, I've become an HGTV watcher, I just want to, flip the houses and do the whole thing. And I've read
Yes.
books on it. And you're actually, I mean, you're talking to people who have been there, done that, who are making great livings doing it. And that's just one of many examples. Can you run through some of the different categories that you have in Penny so people, when they download the app, they know exactly where to jump to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, we have a number of different categories. We have small business, real estate, savings, debt, stocks and options, which is investments, careers, and startups. And, like you said, I think, yeah, some of the most popular ones right now, especially, are helping people to find those side hustles, the kind of alternate streams of income that can help them to create or kind of pad their lifestyle. And yeah, really love that. I support passive income strategies so, so much. It's something I'm so passionate about. And yeah, definitely lots of good insight in the app. So highly recommend that to people who are looking for that kind of insight and information. And I just want to go back to what you said too. I think you're so right. Money can't provide you happiness, but what it does give you is freedom. And I think when you have true freedom, you then get to decide. You get to decide what you want to invest in, what will bring you the most peace and happiness and fulfillment. with how you approach your days. What business do you want to start? How do you want to invest in your community? Where do you want to live? So money can't buy you happiness, but it really provides you freedom to choose in life. And I think that is where the happiness lies.
100%. And something that I used to do is I used to pull these arbitrary numbers. Like, you get your goals for your business and you say, oh, I want to make $1 million. And then you really break it down. Well, why do I want to make $1 million? And then you break down like everything you want, everything you need to be happy. And it's like, oh, I only need 200,000. I don't need a million. So why would I do all this to make a million if really I only need 200,000? And I think people kind of get sucked up in comparison, what they see others doing
Yeah.
and what they think they're doing based on an Instagram post here or there. And they let that cloud their judgment of maybe what they really want or even what they really want to work for. Like building a multi-million-dollar business isn't easy. Do you really want to spend the time and investments to do that? I mean, it's different for everybody. So I think, what would you say? I mean, what would you advise to people, especially people who are side hustling, which I love the side hustle. They're side hustling or they're growing a business. I mean, when it comes to money goals, what do you tell people?
I think that, so for me, I really try to stay away from those comparisons because somebody who is going to say, oh, I built a multi-million dollar business, they're not talking about what they're taking home, right? So people say like,
Exactly.
oh, I made, I made like $3 million last year. And it's like, okay, what part of that was actually profit? What did you really net at the end of the day? Because people get so excited comparing themselves to those people when in actuality, that person might take home $200,000 at the end of the day. After all is said and done, publishers are paid, employees are paid, taxes are paid. So, it's so easy to get caught up in comparing yourself to someone who has a better life or, makes more money and looks happier, right? But at the end of the day, I really advise that you do exactly what you just said. Look at where you're currently at and what life would really bring you happiness. Whether that's being a digital nomad and having the freedom to roam around the globe, live pretty frugally, I guess, depending on where you're going. If you need a certain amount on a month-to-month basis, like go freelance your skills, get a couple clients, live comfortably and meet that goal. If your goal is you want to start a family, you want to settle down, buy a nice house, look at that goal and look at the potential ways that you could meet that goal with side hustles, with you know, whatever your skill set is, there's probably a market to leverage it. Somebody in the world needs your skill set. So whatever that is, you can generate side capital by doing that. And if you break down your yearly goal for what you'd need for that house you want to buy, or that car you want to buy, or that vacation you want to go on, or the real estate property you want to invest in, so you can continue to perpetuate your wealth, then break that down on a month-to-month basis and try to chunk it out into small goals for yourself, so you know what kind of side income you need to be making so that you'll hit your goal at the end of the year. I love doing that. I think weekly goals, they give you that little hit of dopamine anytime you reach them. And so it becomes this kind of self-perpetuating, happiness related to money anytime you meet your monthly or your weekly goal on what you wanted to generate for income that month. So it becomes like addictive and fun, and it's a game that you can kind of play. And at the end, you wind up winning either way because you generated huge amounts of additional side income and you met that goal you were looking to meet. And now you can treat yourself to whatever investment you were looking to invest in.
I read a book a few years ago called The 12-Week Year, and it was about setting a goal for like that quarter, and then you backtrack it, and it will tell you what to do each week, and then it tells you what to do that day. So that's how I set my goals and how I honestly put what I need to put in my calendar, and that is what gets done. How do you set your goals to achieve them since you said you do it weekly?
Yeah, I love that. So great book that you mentioned. And one that I really like is called One Big Thing. I can't remember the author actually, but it's called One Big Thing, and it really talks about setting one big goal that you want to accomplish, whether that is your yearly goal or whether that is breaking it down into each month, you have one big thing that you're looking to accomplish, and then break that down into week by week. Like, in order to accomplish this goal, I need to do this, for the whole month. And then I break that down even further. Like, if my goal is to, generate 1 million users using the Penny app by the end of this year, then I'm going to break that down into month by month incremental goals. And then week by week, it's those real granular goals. Like, what do I actually have to be tangibly doing in order to meet that goal for that month? So that's just an example, but I use it even in my personal life. I like to break it down, and I'll put even calendar blocks on my Google Calendar for like what my goals are for that day. If I split it down into, two big blocks, or kind of estimate like the time it'll take me to do that, then at the end of the week, I know I, either did or did not do everything I needed to do that week. If I have a calendar alert and I'm like, yeah, I can't do that right now, I try to move it so that I don't just forget about it. And then you really get a sense of, yeah, if you wound up meeting those goals at the end of the week.
I love that. The one big thing, I know the book cover. I don't know who wrote it. I am going to link to it in the show notes, as well as the 12-week year. I read, I guess it's like the sister book called Essentialism, which is the
Mm,
same idea. Like, focus on one thing and go all the way into that one thing. Don't do a little bit 5 different ways, because then you're really
yes.
accomplishing nothing. So I will link to those books in the show notes, because y'all know I love a good book recommendation. So those are in the show notes for this episode. Charlotte, is there anything else? Obviously, I'm going to link to Penny. You can visit penny.fm directly. You can also download it on your phone where you get your apps, and it will be linked in the show notes for this episode so you can master your money. Charlotte, is there anything else I should have asked, or anything else that you want to add?
I just want to leave everyone with just an affirmation. Wherever you're at in your financial journey, whatever is stressing you out right now, it's okay. And we have all been there before. I think anxiety over money can be so consuming. And so I just want to highlight for everyone that you're enough as you are, and you're a work in progress human, and that is okay. That's beautiful. So wherever you're at in your financial literacy journey, just accept it, love yourself, and push forward and set those goals. I really yeah, I just want everyone to feel comfortable and inspired to start this journey or continue this journey, and push forward to achieve their goals in life.
And Charlotte, don't you think, like, I would assume that people do get so anxious and stressed about money because of the lack of financial literacy?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
It's so crazy. Like, I hope the lawmakers and educators and whoever decides what the hell is taught in schools and colleges across the country are listening, because if you are going to sit students in seats all day, every day, and tell them how to make money, you got to tell them at some point how to manage it, because it's just
Yes.
mind blowing. I mean, we could talk about so many things on this topic. I mean, it just goes in so many
Absolutely.
different ways. So thank you, Charlotte. You have been amazing. I will link to everything that you mentioned and that we chatted about in the show notes of this episode so people can find it easily. If people want to connect with you personally, where should we send them?
Yes, you can follow me at Charlotte DeMocker on Instagram, or feel free to find me on LinkedIn. I love to help people and field as many direct responses as I can. So if anyone has questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always available.
Okay, perfect. I will link to your Instagram and your LinkedIn page in the show notes for this episode.
Thank you so much, Christina, and thank you for having me.